All right, welcome back. Hello, fellow entrepreneur. You're starting an online business and you want to buy a domain from Shopify. So let me show you how to do this one. Our test store today. Buying a domain for your online business is scary, but it is also very exciting. I've been running Shopify stores for a long, long time now. I have multiple Shopify stores, and every Shopify store that I have had, I've always bought the domain on Shopify just to consolidate everything instead of buying it from a third party and having connection issues and trying to bring the domain over and dealing with PFT files, A records, CNAME records, and all that. We can buy it directly on Shopify, and this will eliminate a lot of hassle. So what we got to do is, if you follow me down here to the settings bar and go to our settings for our test store, and then we can go to domains right here on the side. Domains right here, click domains, and then this is where it will show you a few things. So here is where you will see any of your domains that you have or you've connected. This is just a test store. So this is the default domain that is given to you when you start an online store. This right now says it's the primary domain for this online store, meaning that if I go to my online store here, this is the URL that is showing in the domain right here. This is just a trial store, so there's nothing really important there, but there are two options here. One is connect an existing domain, and the other is to buy a new domain. So this means a few things. To buy a new domain is buy a domain for the first time through Shopify. Connect an existing domain is used if you've bought the domain before from anywhere else. You can connect an existing domain if you've had a Shopify store and now you're opening another Shopify store and you want to bring that domain over to this store. Or more importantly, if you buy a domain from the third party like GoDaddy or Ionis or any third party domain provider that you find, you can connect an existing already purchased domain using this button here. But for today, and the way I've always done it personally, just to consolidate and eliminate a lot of hassles, I buy a domain straight from Shopify. So if we click the buy new domain, this is where we type in what domain we want for our store. So for my beautiful store, we sell this hat, we sell this jeans, and we sell this shirt. It is my $1 million idea to sell those three parts. So what we are going to do is we're going to type in a hat, shirt, and jeans.com. That is going to be my amazing domain for my amazing store. This is just an example. A lot goes into the branding and the domain. And there's a lot of research and strategy that goes into it, but this is just to show you some examples. So what happens now is we get a lot of information here. What I've done in this example is I have inputted what's called the root domain, which is this part here. And then I have also added the domain extension, this part here, .com. And so what will happen is that what you put in as your root domain here, it will give you all the available domains with the extensions available. These are the other results. So a lot of the time when you input your root domain of what you want your store to, of what your store's URL and your store's domain want to be, a lot of the time it is not available. Either the .com is taken or the .ca or the .net is taken, but say the .org is not taken. These are all different domains that have the same root URL but different domain extensions. So this mainly depends on what country you're in, as the country you're in have different domain extensions. For example, .com is associated with the United States, .ca is associated with Canada, and etc. So in this case, we can see that this domain is available with this green check mark. And all we would need to do is we can click buy domain, or we can click .ca or .net. We can click buy, and this will charge us, in this case, $15 USD a year, 16 USD for .ca, 18, and 17. Now, it is really important to note the pricing of these domains. A lot of the time, when you buy a domain for the first time, it is around $15, $16. But then you have to renew the domain every year, once a year. You have a once a year charge, and that is why this is telling you this separate charge here. So, for example, if I wanted this domain, .shop, the first year would be $10, then the renewal would be $33 US a year. This is not a Shopify rule. This is just how domains kind of work on the internet. And this is why there's a lot of third-party companies that say, huge promotion, save 50% on your first year. That's usually just how it works. The original purchase of the domain is always much cheaper than renewing it year after year. Renewing is a lot more expensive. It can be, in this case, 33, 53. It's usually between like 20 and 60, 65, something like that, depending on the domain. If you type in a domain here that is already taken, it will show you that the domain that you input it is not available. It'll say not available. It will have an X here and it won't be available to buy. However, other results of the same domain might be available. For example, this one might be available, this one might not be available, but this one will be taken. So it's all about strategically identifying what you want your domain to say. Even if your business's name is taken, there are different ways of getting a domain you like adding the, or adding dashes, or adding all kinds of things so that the URL and the domain still represents your business and your brand very well. Then the final step in this is once you buy your domain from Shopify, it will appear on your invoice. So this is another reason why buying the domain from Shopify instead of third parties is a really good idea, because you have one invoice per month that you will see your Shopify charge, you'll see any app charges and anything at all, and then also you will see your invoice charge for your domain. In this case, it would say 15 USD on the first year. And then, of course, you have to renew your domain no matter where you buy it once a year. And there's a high chance that this will increase, and that is just normal because it's more expensive to renew the domain than purchase it for the first time. So you have a nice consolidated invoice with your URL, and that will show up in your billing section here. And if anything ever goes wrong with your domain, like the SSL certificate is not what's called provisioned, or it becomes disconnected, or you can't access your store, you're typing in your URL and nothing's coming up, you can go directly to Shopify for that instead of having your online store with Shopify in one tab over here and then going to GoDaddy, for example, and having your URL here and trying to connect your GoDaddy domain to your Shopify store and bringing Shopify store settings to your GoDaddy domain over here. It's just ridiculous. A lot of people do it and a lot of people shop around for the best deal. But from what I've seen in all my Shopify stores, I've always bought it from Shopify because it just consolidates all into one platform and the prices are really not that different. Don't get fooled by any marketing companies that say you can save huge on your first year, then the price goes up after. That's literally the way it is no matter where, just because the original price of the domain is always a lot cheaper than renewing it year after year. Once you buy your domain and it is connected as the primary domain, you'll then see your default URL, like in this test store, be replaced right here, and then you can access all your domains from here. You'll see a list of all your domains because you might have multiple domains for URL redirects and all kinds of things. Domains are quite complicated, but I hope this tutorial has helped you understand what goes behind a domain, how to renew, how to buy, and what to expect when buying a domain from Shopify. That's it. That's the end of this tutorial. You've done such a good job, and now you can call today a successful day. Check this off the list of the million things you need to do as a small business owner. Understand where you're coming from. I run a large Shopify stores, and I know how overwhelming it can be when you're first starting out. So if you want to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs so we can all grow our small businesses, our small business dreams together, consider subscribing. And if you do, I'll see you in the next video.